first couple months in the shop, they had a complete foundry. They had everything for a forging, machine tools, everything, and I was just like that. That was my spot.
Hey everybody, welcome to Whiskey, Lead, and Steel, Feelings Hurt While You Wait, the official podcast of Aggressive Defensive Solutions. I'm Rick Sutton, and joining me today is Joe O'Neill. Joe's not only my old zone partner from when I was on the street in 1st Precinct, but Joe is the producer of some of the coolest cutting and sticking implements out there on the planet. And when he's not doing that, he's also making some of the coolest one-off Kydex stuff. We'll get a link to his email and or phone number so we can get that. Lee'll fix that and it'll come up on the page so you can make contact with him. He's located here in Tidewater, Virginia. He's still with Beach PD, and we're happy to have him. And we're going to talk about some of the cool stuff that he makes and how you can get some stuff made from him. So, Joe, thanks for coming on the show.
Rick.
Thanks for coming out. It's good to see you again.
Thanks for having me out here.
We lucked out. We've been shooting the shit for the last, I don't know, what, 45 minutes.
At least.
Taking a walk down memory lane.
Yep.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah, good things here.
So, if you would, just let everybody know, what your background is and how it is that you got involved in making some of the cool stuff out there, and then, what your process is and how people can get a hold of you and, get stuff made.
Well, it really started way back when. I'm almost 65 now. So this is going back to when I was in high school, 1973. Back in the day, high school used to have used to have shop. That's a foreign thing now. They had, auto shop, wood shop, that type of thing. Well, I always really gravitated towards metal shop. Mm-hmm. And just first couple months in the shop, they had a complete foundry. They had everything for a forging, machine tools, everything, and I was just like that was my spot. I enjoyed it. I always enjoyed school, and that was just a benefit there. So that's really where I started. I got a lot of experience operating machine tools, machine lathes, mills, grinders, things of the sort like that. But then it got into doing a lot of casting, foundry work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Back in the day, you could find a lot of things made from aluminum, brass. It wasn't as expensive, but bring it in, melt it down, and of course, everybody else was making like teacups and things. What do? I'm sitting there and I'm making a set of knuckles. So
nice.
I make my first pour out of brass is a crude set of knuckles on a flat cast instead of a sandwich, putting the two together. So I put that together. Shop teacher looks at it, says, well, you did a great job. Now go melt them down. So, but then it progressed from there. They had a beautiful anvil. This thing was it was probably a 350 pound Peter Wright. It was an old anvil. The school was very old. This is northern New Jersey back in the day. Beautiful anvil. They had an actual coal forge. Oh, and wow. They had, you could actually burn coal. And they also had the forge that you used. It wasn't a forge, it was a furnace. Mm-hmm. But it had a hole in the top. You could turn it on, you could put metal in it. As long as it got hot, you were good to go. So I learned forge welding, doing pattern welding, actually just plain old blacksmithing, mm-hmm. As far as producing like raw iron rails. We did all kinds of things, riveting, hot riveting, that type of thing. And the next course of what's going to be is I start getting into what I wanted to do. I always wanted to make a German dagger. Mm-hmm. So they had some tool steel, but it wasn't really allowed. You were supposed to use it for other things. So I looked it up. Now this is back in the day, way before any internet or anything like that. So you had to look things up. Come to find out, tool steel, carbon steel, leaf springs, coil springs from cars. So I go down to the auto shop. Buddies of mine down there, I'm like, hey, you got these leaf springs? And they're like, yeah, it's a whole shitload of them. We got them sitting over there. So knocked off a piece, brought it back, talked to my shop teacher, said, hey, I'm going to do that with this. And he's like, yeah, okay. Put it in there. So first knife looked like hell. Got done. Looked like hell. I didn't know how to get the whole hardening process, tempering. None of that I really knew. So I basically forged this thing out. I had to file the hell out of it. there wasn't belt grinders in the respect of a 2x72, with different assorted grits. It's just a big ass grinding wheel.
Yeah.
You just ground things down on that. And in the end, it looked good, but when I went and tried it out, the blade snapped immediately, and that was kind of my start in life with getting it, and the quest of knowledge went on. There was a big gap of time in there where I got married, kids, we moved out of Jersey, went to Pennsylvania, just working, things like that, and I kind of fell out of it. Came down to Virginia in 2000. When I came down here. Had a little bit more time, had a bigger place, different environment and everything. So I started getting back into it, and and Rick has seen my shop.
Oh yeah.
It's a garage, but it's got like every tool known to man that you could work with between a full size engine lathe, an engine mill.
Yeah, I would put it. So didn't you buy a lathe that came with the instructions on how to take the lathe and build a new lathe out of it?
Yeah, literally.
Cool
it's
shit
the only
right
machine that can reproduce itself, because you can turn square, you can mill, you can pretty much do everything on a lathe. And it's an old South Bend tool lathe, and a tool room lathe. And there's some little differences on there. It came out of a school, and I'm not sure where. So it was brand new practically. It had a lot of rust on it. From just sitting around for years and years and years. I cleaned it up, and it's kind of like my little pride and joy there. I love that thing. Awesome. Got a bunch of different belt grinders, heating equipment, not heating, but tempering equipment, hardening, that type of thing. Have a forge. So it's like everything's put together there, and I'll put together my way of doing things is very much, I get an idea, and then at that point, I just sit there and say, wow, it comes to me. I think about it. I usually draw it up, and I go into it. I'll do stuff for people. Some people will say, hey, can you make this? I do, but I always found that to be kind of like boring. It's like they come in with their idea, and it's not my idea. So I get like,
now that said, if somebody wants you to make something.
Oh, no,
you make stuff and you make a cool thing, but
exactly.
You'd much rather be.
But it just comes more natural. Like some of the stuff I brought today.
Yeah.
So these are things, these are all just thoughts that came to mind, and it's
cool.
Different things, and it's all made from, everything here is made from carbon steel. But I do work in stainless.
Okay.
But carbon steel is much cheaper when you're just working on concept and thoughts.
Yeah.
If I screw up a piece of carbon steel, it's not that expensive. The stainless isn't that bad, but there's more to it.
But like with carbon steel, we've done this. You've made stuff for me that I've then taken and had Cerakoted.
Yes.
So that works like a champ.
Oh yeah. We're parkerizing.
Parkerizing. Because you can parkerize, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, do the parkerizing. Usually just some cold bluing. I was doing hot bluing, but you have to be careful with the blade, because once you get you figure you heat treat it, right? You harden it, you temper it back to wherever you want it. So you have a Rockwell of like 59, 60, 61, and then you drop it in 700 degree, basically this tank full of the bluing liquid that you pretty much melt it down. And when you take it out, you could actually at that point start changing the dynamic of the blade. So you have to really be careful with it.
But Cerakoting doesn't do that. Yeah.
No, not at all. The Cerakoting, that's a great thing too.
Yeah.
I'm real utilitarian. I'm very much, I like a little frill, but it's not, like I said, if I put together, like this is a blacksmith's knife. Okay. So this is D1 tool steel. And I found a coil of this stuff, and it was at an estate sale. And what it was the guy had like a rotor-rooter business at one point, and it was the steel that they use on a snake.
Huh.
So I looked up what the make was, and it was D1.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so for like $5, I got like 300 feet of this stuff. Yeah, so it's fairly thin. It's not that big, but yeah.
That's a cool looking blade.
Yeah, it's got a little piece of tape on it there. So and that's like just a quick. So as far as like frills.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just the handle. That's That's what makes it more of the blacksmith knife is
How you did that.
the bend and the little twist.
Yeah.
But it works out pretty good, you know. Same material, but this is an old school spike. So this is what you know, like some of the prostitutes in the old West might have carried in a thigh holster or inside of a garter belt. Very small, very hard. Defensively, when you get down to it, and people argue this all the time, it's cool to have a knife, but defensively, you're not going to beat a spike. So close quarter combat, we're chest to chest and we're fighting it out. I could stick my knife in you, yeah.
Well, you did that. I was telling somebody about the giant syringe needle, essentially, that you created. That thing is cool. Have you done another one of those? Or that's just the one?
I have just did that one. It was just a one-off. Somebody had asked me about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, they gave me the idea, and I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds. See, but it resonated with me, so I was like, oh, no problem, you know. And we put it together. But yeah, but syringe tip is. I didn't bring one with me.
That thing is cool.
Most of the like spikes that I make, except for this one, this is just it's a square. I also do a triform, which is a triangle, basically, or a twist. You know, a triangle.
Now,
with
I'm gonna deviate here and talk about the science. Would putting a fuller on that as a blood groove make a difference? Do you think, or no?
No, not really, because this has got such a hard taper on it.
Got it.
And this is very smooth. So if I stick this, and let's be real about it. I'm not sticking it in walnuts. I'm not putting it in.
Yeah.
You know, this is meant to stick into somebody.
Yeah, yeah, and deflect off a bone.
Hey, right. So if I'm sitting there and I'm sticking this in your chest, your neck, your head, this will go through a skull pretty easy because this is extremely hard.
Yeah.
But it's very flexible. That's why what it's made from.
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of flex into it. The old design, I had looked it up. They usually put a little more twist in it, but the twist gives you a little grip.
Yep.
But the curly Q on the back, people are like, it's kind of decorative. It's cool. But no, what it does is it fits in the palm of the hand. So it doesn't hurt your hand when you're jamming that thing in.
Yeah, and it also gives you something to grip
pull
against
onto because you're wrapped around it. So this doesn't hurt and it comes in and out. So it's like, you know, you look at it, it's kind of cool, but it does have some use to it. Yeah. And that's where it's going with
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But then you get into some of these types of things. So this is a little bit of leather work. I do leather work. I'm not the most proficient at leather work. It's, again, utilitarian. It gets the job done, but I like to work in heavier leather. So I'll use like 9 ounce to 10 ounce, 12 ounce leather. That gets up into saddle leather, the much thicker stuff, which I prefer. Yeah. Okay. So this is lighter though. This is like an 8 ounce leather, but pretty much just a pouch sheath. So this is made from, I'll put that right there.
That's pretty cool.
This is made from a tine from a deer antler. Okay. It's got a copper fuller that goes around the back over here that holds it on. And it's basically just glued in, okay? It's burnt in and then glued, and there is a pin that runs through it. So this is a copy of an old school, like 16th, 17th century patch knife.
Okay.
And it's much more refined.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way, because I used, electric equipment to grind this thing down and polish it up. But what it is this is a very wide, flat, tiny little blade. So if you have your muzzle loader and you're working, a lot of times it's not everybody had like pre-cut patches. They just had a piece of something. So you would cut your piece off, basically get your ball, put it in there, you put it in there, you put it flat on there, bang, pat it down, and then ramrod it in.
Got it.
So they call them patch knives,
yeah,
because it would just cut the patch. And but it is a utilitarian type of knife. This one is got an edge quench on it. I don't know if you can actually see it.
Oh yeah.
Like you see?
Yeah.
So the way this is 1095 steel. The way this was created, ground it down, polished it, did everything I had to do, put the edge onto it, and then it's brought up to critical temperature, which is about 1600 degrees, goes to non-magnetic. Then it's put into a bath of oil, and I use Parks 50, which is a quenching oil, and it has a limiting block, which is just a chunk of steel. So it's the depth of what I want, and I put it in, and it pretty much just rock it in the oil. That cools it off. And this is my own technique of when I take it out, the top is still very hot. But what I'll do is I'll quench high So I'll have a lot of hardened steel. Take it out, and then I just naturally let the heat go down, and that brings that temper back in a little bit more, let it go in. This way I don't have to put it in and temper it for the 400 degrees at 2 or 3 hours to bring it back down. It draws itself out.
Okay.
And it's a real durable type of...
So you've got a good hard edge, but you've got a flexible back end.
Right,
Yeah. So,
right.
so you're not likely to snap it.
Exactly.
Nice.
Because there's not a whole lot going on there. But then again, each knife has a particular use.
Sure.
This isn't meant for, cutting boulders out of the ground.
Yeah.
Or prying open a door.
Yeah, it's not like
it's meant to cut a little piece of cloth and stick it in your gun.
Cut your sandwich up.
Exactly.
Cut a chunk of barbecue off.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Super utilitarian. That's
But
pretty
then,
damn cool.
so, other things working in is the Kydex work. So I've started out doing it for the knives. I've worked into doing it for handguns. Clear and safe. Put that off to the side. So my own design, just a minimalist type of a holster. It's got a flexible clip on it. It's, again, same theme. No frills, does what it's supposed to do. I try to work things in that, for me, work for me. And typically, you find it works for others, too.
Yeah.
So on a holster like this, being able to put the gun in, especially up against the body, having that little bit of a rise, and if you have a little pudge and you're not looking like Schwarzenegger, where you could just like drop it in there, but it comes in, it does guide the gun down. It's also high enough that protects the sight from digging into your skin.
Yep. Well, so I have one of your holsters
Yes.
for my Smith & Wesson M&P.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to get up with you because I need one just like it for my SIG 320 and my SIG
There you go.
365 XL.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then of course with mine, you did the custom thing because
Yes.
of where I carry mine.
You ride over the belt, so
yeah,
you
I
put
ride
a
over the
notch
belt so you
inside
put
of
a
it.
notch. That was awesome.
And it works. Those are the kinds of things, though. Doing any customization, it gives me other ideas. So like people like yourself come in with a lot of knowledge and know-how, practical experience, real world experience. So when you come in and sit there and say, hey, it's like this and I wanted that, and I'm like, oh shit, why didn't I even think of that? That makes actual sense, because where the hell is that belt loop wand?
Yeah.
Always exactly where you want to put this thing. But so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But I started out doing the sheaths. Kydex, I started out with leather, but I moved into Kydex, and it was one of those things where everybody wants, a tactical type of a sheath. They're good. They're great in the respect of like durability. They're very thin, so they hide well. They do a hell of a job on a blade itself as far as scratch. You get a little dirt inside this thing, and it's going to be tearing it up. Yeah. As long as you don't care about that, again, a knife is a tool. It's like a hammer. You take care of the hammer, but the hammer's going to get dirty. It's going to get rusty. It's going to, but as long as you take care of it, same thing with this, So on something like this, it's got a positive lock, and you can actually hear when it clips right in there. So on something like this, I mean, you really have to go. Like if I whipped it, it might come out, but it has to be enough that you could wear it and get it out, but have it locked back in.
Yeah.
So that gets into the blade itself. And this is just a standard double edge, but this is an aluminum scales that I put on these. And I also do anodization. So I was able to anodize. You can anodize any color you want.
Yeah.
It's like the Cerakoting.
Yeah.
Okay. I say color-wise, Cerakoting is a whole different, is an actual
it's a
coating.
different process.
Anodization is actually opening the pores of the
Aluminum.
to where they're in an open state, and then putting them in a color. The color gets into the first layer, so to speak, of the aluminum. Then you put it into a boiling hot bath. It closes it up and keeps the color. So it's a permanent thing. I mean, mil-spec anodization is a very hard coat, because that's what it does. It kind of hardens that outer coating of the aluminum. So a lot of mil-spec parts that get done don't have any color at all. You could just do it, put it in there, and it just stays kind of a dull gray. But it's got that hardness to it.
Well, I have to blast anodization off of a lot of AR uppers for Cerakote process.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a pain in the ass.
It really is. It is. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Push knives are a big thing. A lot of people like neck knives and push knives. So this is a push knife.
Yep.
So the whole concept of having it in your hand, you know, being able to push / do whatever. And this is not your traditional type of a sheath for it, but it's a pocket sheath.
Oh.
So you don't want to have a loose blade in your pocket.
Yeah,
you sit down and all of a sudden, you know,
You're bleeding.
Yeah, well, you're now changing genders or whatever's going on there. So you don't want that to happen. So this basically fits in your pocket. Okay, it's got the length enough that it's not going to just like roll around.
Yeah.
But the big thing is you can index when you hit this. You feel it. Your fingers now come up on the leather to pull out and come out with the knife. Okay.
Got it.
So if you just had a standard sheath like this,
Yeah.
you're sitting there going like that and you're pulling your pocket.
Yeah.
So now you're grabbing and you're doing this and you know, you're just having a bad day. So that's really there. This also works. This whole design came from a different one. I didn't bring it with me, but a lot of people.
I got to try that.
Yeah.
That's badass, dude. That worked like a champ.
Yeah.
I didn't even require any training. I didn't even require any training for that.
We're gonna have to sign you off on
I am, am I? Yeah. It's jarhead proof. That's awesome.
Well, there were some crayons involved with it, so I don't know what will happen. But so this the configuration. What I originally started out with was, and I had made it for my wife, was this type of a very long, slender blade.
Yeah.
Okay. So this, in this style of a sheath, was a letter opener. And what I would do is, on the back, I would put like a crushed felt, so a nice blue or a red, and it would sit on a desk with a very loose sheath that you could take out, open up letters. But paranoia sets in, right? So you're working at your desk, stupid shit starts happening. What's nicer to have hiding in plain sight a letter opener that is 1095 with a very nice razor type edge, and it's hard to see, but there's like a PowerPoint on this.
Yeah.
So what it does is you come down, whatever, I don't know what the degree of angle is, but the cant off of it is 15. So it comes down and then we go in 15 degrees. So what that does is instead of coming down to a needle point like this, okay, you're coming down and you're getting a little more girth to the point.
Yeah, almost a chisel point.
Exactly. So when you come in with, if you're sticking with this is going to hold up a little bit better. Either way, I wouldn't want to get stabbed with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's got the ring. It's not a pinky ring. It's more of a, like if you're using it to get hold of it, to hold on to it, you could put a leather strap to it. Works out pretty good. That kind of brings it to this one. Now, this is a buddy of mine who lives in Arizona. He was making these, and he's just like an old biker dude. Yeah. And this is a play on that. His is more of this style where it's almost all one piece. Mine has more of a cut into it. Okay. So it gives you that heart shape. Okay. So this is desert ironwood with just some 1/4 inch brass pins. This has got a very nice temper to it. This is like a spring. Okay. But this has a point on it that is nasty.
Oh yeah.
So this is really a straight. This gets into your spike area with an edge. Yeah. Okay. So this, when you're sticking this, if this stick between the ribs it'll go in fine. But if you say you're coming in sideways like this, it's got such a harsh angle and it's very sharp, it'll cut right into the ribs. Okay. Oh, wow. It'll cut into bone. It does. And it's strong enough that when you're pulling out, if you're pulling out and you get a flex on it, it's not gonna, you're gonna be ready for a repeat cut slash. The point, it's sharp. It's not super sharp, but it's very pointy. Yeah. So points equate to edge. Yeah. So a swipe with this across your chest, it's going to open you up. Yeah. Okay. It doesn't have to be brutally sharp, but it's going to, that's the same thing with that syringe tip that we spoke about. But again, simple design, carbon steel, you know, really practical. Very small, works well as a horizontal carry on a belt in the back. Same thing, same concept here. It's not a pinky. It's meant to hold like a little strap of leather or something that you can retrieve it, hold on to it. You know, if you need to flip it around, you've got a little more purchase on it. Works out pretty good.
Got it. Very cool.
Yeah. This gets into, this isn't mine as far, this is mine, I should say. That I didn't make the knife.
Okay.
This is
So it's not a Joe O'Neill K-bar.
no. This is a Vietnam era Camellias.
Mm-hmm.
It was an issued weapon to a Marine, but I guess they got whatever they could do.
Yeah. But it's the standard K-bar Marine
Yep.
fighting knife style.
Yep. It's not.
Cool.
It's basically marked there. I think it says
Yeah, this
mark
is USN. Yeah,
mark-
it's a Navy.
on the actual hilt or the guard itself on the face. It should say something.
Well, so it's a Camelus from New York, and then it says USN here.
Yep. I think
Yeah, we're both old. We need to hold
Yeah,
that
I can.
7 feet away to be able
Yeah,
to
I
read
know.
it.
But where I had gotten it from, it was somebody. They were in the Navy. They were issued the knife, never used it. They were in Vietnam, sat there, and basically went into an estate.
Oh, wow.
Picked it up fairly. But what I wanted to show you was now I made the because it didn't have a sheath.
Got it.
It was just a knife. So this is a recreation of what would be with additional rivets. What they would have
Got it.
issued probably during World War II.
Okay.
Not this thick though. They would have
Yeah.
used much thinner leather. So, but this is like 9-ounce leather right now.
Yeah.
All hand stitched.
Oh, wow.
Yep, oil tanned. It's got a nice wide loop. You got your leg tie down. The opening down here doubles as a drain because a lot of these, when they fill up with water, you don't want them sitting in there because the oil treatment holds everything in, keeps it out, but it fills up. You'll rust your blade.
Yeah.
But not difficult, but works out well when you're working with other types. It gives you that latitude of like, you want Kydex or you want leather, either or. There's another one. We were talking about it before we got sidetracked with everything else.
Yeah.
This is a neck knife. It's a neck push knife.
Yeah.
So through the holes here, if you notice, these are smaller and these get into the 1/4 inch. So this will take a bead chain.
Okay.
So it'll fit around your neck nicely. Okay.
Nice.
It's got a pull sheath, and it's that same concept of where do we go?
That one there,
The
yeah.
hard angle.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got that triangular look to it. This can be used as a push, but it really works well as a hand knife because when you grab it, you're not gonna.
Yeah, because the
You're not
ergonomics.
gonna. Yeah, you're gonna be more here.
Yeah.
And now you got this nice swell. That's why it's much smaller than this. So you've got this swell in your hand, and again, it's used. A hit to the temple, a hit to the neck, and it's very light. It's quick. It's fast. It's really strong. And this isn't super sharp. None of these are really super sharp now.
Yeah.
Because again, I just make them and I put them. I kind of use it as a reference later on. But you can get this down to a razor. And same thing, it's got a hard hollow grind on it. Basically 3 pins, walnut, nothing fancy.
Nice.
Carbon steel. But same thing with the Kydex sheath. Now, I made it more for my hand. If you have bigger hands, you can make it more of a gap,
Yeah.
But a lot of times, keeping these things hidden, you don't want this big, huge, flashy,
Yeah.
and it's much lighter. But the sheath it's got to be a positive lock.
Yeah. Because
So-
you don't want that thing falling down while you're sitting down and
Exactly. You can see,
re-circumcise yourself.
yeah, you can see where it's actually molded over, so you get that pop
Yeah.
in the lock. But this is the same thing. You really would have to go some, but you have it here. It's quick. It's accessible. Works out pretty good.
So one of the things to talk about with that is, because you've made some stuff for me, with some Kydex stuff. So, as a matter of fact, you've made Kydex sheaths for my Gerber Guardian.
Yeah.
So that's great. So if you already have a tool, any kind of tool, be it an edged weapon or a firearm or magazine pouch, Leatherman holder, something like that, you bring it to Joe and, probably be ready to spend 10, 15 minutes because Joe's serious about getting all the details to get it right. So everything I've ever had from you and everything I've ever talked to anybody who's had products from you, they've always been out the door just thrilled, satisfied with it. So if you have an idea, if you have something like that, you come to Joe, sit down with him, talk to him, and explain leave nothing to chance. Joe's one of those guys. I know this from having talked to him, and he's probably not going to say it about himself, but he's so detail oriented that he's not interested in telling you what you need. He wants to find out what it is that you need, what it is that you want, and then he'll tell you the best way to make it, and then he'll make exactly what it is that you're looking for. Right. So to that end, so if somebody's got K-bars or anything like that, they can come to you and get leather goods made from you, one-off stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Same thing with Kydex. And
yep.
then, of course, various weapons, right?
Yeah, the knives. Now, that said, a lot of these things, especially right now, it's not really a business per se.
Sure.
So it's like, I'm a police officer, but I'm going to be retiring in like 4 months. So I'm going to be stepping into a different stage of life. But I have everything I need to continue on doing this, and I'll have much more time to get it. Getting things accomplished now tend to take a long time,
Yeah, because you got to do 40 hours a week with the police department, plus you got to go to the gym.
Yep.
Plus you got to brew beer. I mean,
there's too many other things that I have to go do. I just an FYI, I now got into laser engraving.
Oh, nice.
So I got a 36 watt diode laser.
Oh, cool.
And it's pretty strong ass thing. So now, instead of hammering my maker's mark into it, you can engrave it. I can put the tool steel make on it and have it nice and straight.
Cool.
Cuts leather sheaths out.
Nice.
Like on the K-bar, stacked leather.
Mm-hmm.
Now I made for a friend of ours, Nick Kelly.
Oh yeah.
He had basically a fundraiser.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. Yeah.
Yep. So I had made a knife.
I saw that
for that, to donate to that, and that was stacked leather.
Yeah.
And the amount of time it takes to cut that stacked leather out. I have a punch. You punch it, but then you got to make the center hole. Well, was watching how this thing cuts leather, and I could put a 12 by 24 piece of sheet of leather, and put up some nice 12-ounce heavy leather.
Nice.
Basically set the program to the size that I want and the center that I want, let it run, and it'll cut everything out for me. Take it out. Now, saves time, better product, more continuity. It's less work in the respect of I don't have to cut it, but also when I'm finishing the handle, I don't have like this massive, the old way was you basically, fresh natural leather, you wet it and you put it under pressure, you can't pull it apart. It bonds. Some of the more stuff, the veg tan stuff, you have to glue it. You have to put some type of a bonding agent in there, but you make these big blocks, and then you're drilling it out and you're grinding it, and there's a mess all over the place. Hopefully this will be a bit of a game changer. But it also puts a lot of people ask for like a retirement type of blade. Mm-hmm. So they want something, like
nice
Rick Sutton, from the early ages to now.
Yeah.
The old as no. But you would put stuff like that on the blade. Yeah. Electro etching's fine, but then you have to have a template made. It gets into, if you make one little mistake with electro etching, now all of a sudden either you're regrinding the blade or you're doing it again.
Yeah.
Engraving on hardened steel, a lot of the engravers just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's and then
chews up their bits.
Exactly. Well, and then engraving on soft steel prior to hardening, now I got to finish it. So so it's like, so laser engraving is kind of a little bit of a game changer with that. Cool. So that's just an added thing. That gets into a lot of the folders. I didn't bring a ton of them, but I did bring one with me. And this is just a small, I say gentleman's knife because it's tiny.
Yeah.
But it's a nice auto opener.
Look at that.
So this is, again, it's a concept. Just a thought. Gets into a funky looking blade, but the blade has some logic and reason to it. Mm-hmm. So if you hold the knife here, or if you hold the knife here or here, okay?
Yeah.
If you notice where the point is, had I followed it up, it would have been above the center line.
Yeah.
So by putting, I call them PowerPoints, by putting the PowerPoint into it, it now puts it in line with the center line. So not that this is a huge defensive knife, but in a thrusting capacity,
every little bit counts.
It's going to be as like recoil on a rifle. You want it to, directly back instead of knocking you down. Well, same thing here. And it also allows you, when you lock it up. Now, It comes in, you get maximum blade, but you're also safely putting that into there.
Yeah.
Just walnut grips, gets into the same type of anodization we had on the other knife. Now on these, I make everything.
Yeah.
So the only thing I didn't make are these 2 screws, but everything else, as far as the release, the center pivot,
The spring and all that.
yep,
Yeah.
the spring, I did buy the spring. The center, the actual spacer in the back, it's just a piece of brass, but it's got a little fancy file work going on there.
Nice.
But the screws are the only thing. So it's like a completely handmade knife.
Yeah, it's an actual one-off.
Exactly. There's no other one like this. And this one, my big thing with pocket knives, so people will get like, unless you get into Microtech or ProTech, even ProTech, a lot of times the way they're manufactured, they're CNC made. Okay, so the way the screws are, the way they thread them, it's very quick. And a lot of times on the cheaper ones, the screw itself is what's cutting the threads. So they'll put them together and it looks really nice, and you're paying $100, $200, $300 for some of these. Something happens, then you got to take it apart, and you're like, why the hell is for one, is it stripping out, and two, the hole itself looks like it's all full of dust, and that's actually when you're taking it out, pieces of the aluminum are coming off. Putting it back together, you can get them back together, but they really don't go back together well.
Yeah.
I like to look at these as like it's an actual piece of machinery. So when you unscrew this, I drilled the hole, I tapped the hole. The screws are actually hardened screws, cap head screws that have been made to fit. All the pieces here, this is actually 01 tool steel. Okay, it's 01 tool steel and it's hardened. Same thing here. 01 tool steel.
So they're not going to wear and wallow.
No, and they're not going to fall apart. So these, you can't see it now. I should have brought a little example of it. But the pivots themselves, so whatever the dimension is, okay, the pivot itself is just a hardened tube that's threaded on both sides. And the blade rotates on that. Well, one of the things about doing a larger pivot, it gives you more area. It's not as shaky. It's a little more stable, and it's a stronger knife.
Yeah.
But one of the things though is it collects a lot of dirt, and it could slow the knife down. So I've gotten to where on some of the original fowls, you know, the Israeli ones, they put lightning cuts. But if you look at the bolts, it's got those grooves in it.
Yeah.
That's where I kind of got the idea from. Those are sand cuts.
Yeah.
And what it does is dirt goes into those cuts and allows the bolt to fly freely.
Yeah.
Well, same thing on this. I have these scallop cuts that are into it. So when you put it in there, I still have the purchase of the actual pin itself, but it allows dirt, dust, and everything to get in. So every now and again, you take it apart, you clean it all out, you put it together. Oil is like the worst thing on these.
Yeah.
As soon as you put oil, you got dirt, and you got it does a little graphite's nice, or a little silicone. Okay.
Well, so I do the same thing with my handguns in that I polish all my metal-to-metal surface contacts.
Yes.
So that they're like glass, so they look like chrome.
Yep.
So then you don't need much lube.
No.
And then, you know, because I carry everything concealed.
Yes.
So my Glock was notoriously full of dust bunnies, but it was a Glock. So you press the trigger and all the dust bunnies go away. But yeah, so like I run my concealed carry guns, I run them dry. I run my, where was it? Must be in the house somewhere. I have I've got a Benchmade that I've been carrying for years.
Yep.
That I run it dry, but hot water and palm olive.
Yep.
Scrub it, blow it out, make sure it's dry,
Yep.
and carry it that way. And I've taken it apart and polished all the internal parts so that you don't need to lube it. So that's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, when it's a good thing. You could literally wash this with water.
Yep.
And then give it a couple hard shakes, and then you could just take a hair dryer.
Yep. And evaporate
Heat it
the
up.
water out of it.
It'll take all the moisture out of it, and it's fine. Now this is a carbon steel blade. Okay.
Yeah.
And the only reason nobody ever touches it, it just sits on a shelf like this.
Yeah.
And you can see there's like dust on one side.
Yeah.
And it's like super shiny on the other side. That's just what that's from.
Yeah.
But you could just wash that up. Left untreated though, carbon steel it'll rust.
Yeah.
It'll rust quickly.
Yeah.
One thing with, and this gets into, if you want Gucci, I guess you got to buy Protec and the others. But if you want utilitarian, if you want something that's going to work and perform, I always like carbon steel. There's absolutely nothing wrong. The new stainlesses are like amazing. You get into the SV30s. There's like all these new super steels. They're always coming out with something. It's like an iPhone.
Yeah.
There's some other like edge holding quality to it, which I never understood, because for many years, as long as they've had blades, up until not too long ago, relatively speaking, stainless came into the picture. Yeah. Prior to that, it was always carbon steel.
Yeah.
And people could, if my knife, I used it, I gut a deer, I clean them all up, I skin them all out, right? I'm all done. I clean my knife off. I take my steel. Oh, I'm sharp and I'm there. As opposed to having some type of steel that is so freaking hard. Oh yeah, the edge lasts for a year, 2 years. It's great. When it goes dull,
it's a nightmare.
You are not going to be able to get that thing without some type of special equipment.
I have a Gerber. I quit. I like Gerber knives, but I quit carrying Gerbers after a while because working them hard, you'll dull them.
Yes.
And then once they're dull, dude, you got to set aside the afternoon to sharpen the damn things.
Yep.
And then they're finicky. So, like my Benchmade, I take because I use it all the time. So I've got a Farrier's rasp, small Farrier's rasp that I use for sharpening my Farrier's knives. I'll be down at the barn. I'm like, oh, that's not sharp. And I'll run it over here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, checking it's good.
Yep.
That Gerber, 1, 2, 3. Oh no, you can only do 2.5 on this side, or it rolls it over. So now you got to monkey back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not bad knives.
No.
But they're
the
sharpening them. You really got to have the skill set for it.
Yeah, and that's something that, as far as like I've gotten sharpening now down to a real science. There's different ways people, up, edge down, stones. I mean, there's a million different ways. But when you're trying to get stuff done, I mean, you could sit there on an 18-inch, 500 grit whetstone, like you just got out of the jungle someplace and you're like sitting there like this and this and this.
Yeah, if you're making a katana to be a samurai. Hey.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. And you're going to get $18 billion for the thing. I can understand it. But it's like, okay, I need a knife. So I'll put up a 600 grit belt. I'll run the edge. Then I have it literally is a 2x72 piece of leather. I'll fit it on. It's got some green chrome on it. And I'll just backstrap it like this.
Yeah.
And that thing, you could fold paper and go straight down and go, and it cuts right through.
Nice.
Super sharp. One thing with sharp edges is they go dull.
Yep.
So you can have a medium sharp. You can have like something that's going to, if I go like this, it cuts, right? Yeah. If I go like that and cut down through meat, it cuts it. That's good. Or you can have like a surgical type of people are cutting tomatoes at 2 microns.
And a lot of people don't understand from a working knife standpoint.
There's a key word there.
Yeah, if it is a combative's knife, razor sharp is not really what you want at the end of the day because it's not going to hold up.
No.
Yeah.
No. You're more apt to lose the edge.
Yeah.
On that. Now, if there's a purpose for it, like a skinning knife.
Sure.
Okay, you're gonna if you're working it,
But as an example, that's a bad example, but this is not a skinning knife.
No.
Right? So
no.
We talk about this needs to have a good point, and this needs to be sharp enough to stick through what you're shipping,
right.
But it also needs to be dull enough that if you drop it and you need to pick it up and you don't get the perfect grip and you grab it here,
exactly.
It doesn't lay your fingers open.
And that's exactly right. There's so many times when people they like kitchen knives.
Yeah.
So I've gotten into doing a lot of kitchen knives lately.
I'm still using that little Japanese knife that you gave me.
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah, I use the shit out of that thing. I love that thing.
The kitchen knives, I just actually made my daughter it's a Japanese vegetable knife. It's called a nikiri. So basically made it out of leaf spring. I had, and that's kind of the way a lot of them are done now. Basically, repurposed steel. Okay, put it together, and it's 6.5 inches long, it goes from about 1/8 of an inch down to maybe a 1/16. It's very thin. It's got a very narrow. One of them, there's two of them I made. One's got a single grind, which is great when you're cutting because it cuts your fingers. You don't have to worry about the cut when you're coming down.
Yeah.
This is probably a better example of cutting going down. But the angle, it's flat on this side, and it's got an edge that goes completely to the other side of the steel.
Yeah.
So when you cut, what it does is it forces everything over, and there's a big ferrule blood groove, so to speak, that runs right down the top of it.
Nice.
So it releases really quick. Making those, I'm actually right in the process now of making a chef's knife for somebody that had asked for one, putting it together. Same thing, what I'll do is I'll start out, I'll forge out the blade where I want it. And then at that, I just start with it, and it all ground down, get it fitted. The handle, this is going to have copper furniture as far as the right in the tang area on a lot of kitchen knives. Some knives like this doesn't have any. So, but on a big size, a full size 8 to 9 inch chef's knife, you're going to be doing some chopping and stuff like that. You don't always hold the knife way back here, when you're chopping. That's kind of awkward. So what you're going to do is you kind of grip up on it. You might hold up. So that area over here is where I usually typically put these bolsters in. So when you're working with it, and that's kind of gotten to be like, I guess, a sign of some of the stuff I've been doing, because I had the mere fact that I ran into a shitload of copper. So I'm like, what can I use?
There you go.
Copper's expensive as hell now.
Yeah.
Now come to find everybody really loves copper.
Yeah.
So then I had to source copper pins in order to make it all match, because it looks like hell if you put brass in. But no, they're coming through. And the other thing is doing the sheath. Yet one more is, and I should have brought it along. I didn't think to do it. A lot of the Japanese knives, and these are all patterned after that, their sheaths are wood. So, but the thing with it is it's very, very thin.
Yeah.
So you can't have this big honky, you can't take a 2x4, cut it in half and have this massive, with a knife sitting in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So these, I've gotten it down. I've been working with cherry. I can never pronounce it. Osijo. It's a funny looking orange wood.
Okay.
It's a tropical type of a wood, but it's a very hard wood. But what I'll do is I'll basically open it. I'll have to cut it in two. So a 3/4 inch piece cut in half. Then I'll reflective where the pattern is on both of them, chuck it up in my mill out a 1/16 inch slot on each side. But when you put the two together, you get an 1/8 inch slot that fits the knife together.
Nice.
It'll have a retention pin in it. Works out really well, looks really good. Takes a long time to get them done, But a lot of people are now. You could put together a pine one in probably no time whatsoever. But you want something, so if I'm using high-end wood for the handle, you want it to match.
Yeah. You don't want
And it's people have been liking it.
Good.
From that standpoint.
Cool.
But the last thing I got up here is
Baby machete there.
it's my take on a Indonesian parang.
Huh. That's cool as hell, dude.
It's got some heft to it.
Yeah, it does, but it's got a great balance.
Yep. It's the handles. It's got a nice grip to it. It's snake wood.
That's way cool, dude.
These again. This is 1095, pounded all out. Really, something. It's amazing. Something like this doesn't take nearly as long as something like this.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Because
my limited experience doing black working stuff around horses. Yeah.
I mean, this is pretty much, you start out with one shape and you get it to where you want.
Yeah.
And it gets finished off. I'll have to grind. This has got a convex grind, so it's much stronger. Now I ordered one from I think it was Thailand. It came from, and it's a real parang, like what they would use in the jungle, and it was like the biggest piece of crap you want to see. The one hit, and then pulling out like this, a big chunk of the blade just came right out.
Oh.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in the jungle with that.
Nah.
You could see this where I mean, I was like out in the backyard with this thing, hacking the hell out. I haven't resharpened it either.
Yeah.
And right now, for what this is,
Oh yeah.
it's got a lot of life left into it. And same thing, dynamics of the blade, they don't sharpen all the way down into here. It looks like it is, but it's not.
Yeah.
And that's meant more for if you're doing like some drawing with the knife, if you're pushing like this.
Yeah.
A lot of times they use this, they'll
Cutting
use it
stuff
as their like chef knife.
Yeah.
It's a multi-purpose thing.
Because when you're in the third world, you have as few tools as you. Because we've talked about this from a tactical standpoint. When you start talking about gear, ounces become pounds, pounds become tons.
Yes.
And so if you have something that is utilitarian, and you can do 5 or 6 things with it,
Exactly.
2 of them combative related,
Right.
You've just lightened your load for everything that you've got to carry to be able to do the job.
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah.
absolute. I mean, like the Gurkhas and their kukris.
Yes.
They do everything in the damn world with those things.
Yeah. Well, that if you ever see like a real kukri, the way they put them together is you've got the actual knife, the actual fighting knife.
Yeah.
And that's used for quite a bit.
Yeah.
But then if you look in the sheath, there's 2 little tiny utilitarian knives.
Yeah.
They're about this big. They look just like little kukris.
Yep.
But they're very thin and they're razor sharp. And they do everything. They use probably that more than anything.
Yeah.
It's like you can have all the cool looking knives. But what's the one knife you're going to use? You're at Sears and you need to open up or take a tag off of something.
Yep.
You're not pulling out like whoosh, a huge K-bar.
Yeah.
No, you're taking out your little,
Yep.
old timer
Yeah,
and cutting it.
Or you're opening up your 3.5-inch blade, Benchmade or Emerson or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or your 3-inch one off Joe O'Neill Custom.
Yes. Yeah.
So to that end, right? Now we'll preface this with, remember, all of these are handmade by one dude, one at a time, and they are, even if they're all very similar, even if you ordered a bunch of these, they're all going to be one-offs. So the prices are going to be reflective on that. But you get what you pay for. There's no doubt about that. So just as an idea, what does like this and this and this and that ballpark figure? What would something like those items cost if somebody wanted to buy one?
This now I had sold 2 in this general. It had different wood on it.
Yeah.
One of them actually had the aluminum that was in blood red.
Oh wow.
And yeah, they went for 300.
Okay.
Something like this. This was one of those things where it was a concept, an idea. I never sold one. The amount of time making this, I don't know unless somebody really wanted something like that, because that gets into a lot where I'm actually soldering brass on Coca-Cola and then putting in stainless steel pins. It gets into quite a bit. Would probably be in about the same area. Something like this or this. These are probably in the 150, 200. Not that bad. Spikes, you can do these for like 50, something like this. Same thing. Yeah. Yeah. This isn't, I mean, there's only a certain amount of work that you have to do on something like this.
Yeah.
Okay. So in a day, I could probably bang out 10 of these in a day. Okay. Something like this is going to be, if I would work solid on it, would probably be about a week. Okay. And initially you can cut it out, grind it out, get it all like to the point, but then you have to start finishing.
The finishing is, yeah.
And if you look at this blade, there's no scratches.
Yeah.
So when you're finishing and you look and there's a scratch, it's not done. So you go back to finishing more.
Got it.
And it's not, I don't have a huge factory that has like, machines that sit there and polish it all down. The drawback to them is that literally it's like, okay, you've got one of 8 billion.
Yeah. And you can't look in the face of the guy who made it.
No.
And go, hey, and then the other thing that goes along with it. So something like this. Okay. So if I went, Joe, I really like the concept. However, I want like a Tanto with a half serration. Well, you can't order that from somebody else because nobody else makes it. So,
exactly.
But you can, and I go, and I don't want wood. I want G10 or something because of what I've got going on. So, and then I can come by and look at it and everything's the way that I want it. So that's one of the advantages that you have of talking to the
Yes.
guy who makes your item. So as an example, just so guys have an idea, what does something like this run?
These get into a lot more, and I had like several others. And again, just for bringing stuff along.
Yeah.
There's bigger, smaller. It being an automatic, this is a pocket one, so it doesn't
Yeah.
have a clip. So if you add the clip, that gets into even more. Something like this would probably be in the 350 to 400 range. Adding the clip into it, people are like, okay, it's a clip, but it's not. I'm not calling up knifekits.com and saying send me 5 clips.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is on something like this, I'll take actually a piece of 705 stainless, chuck it up, put it in the mill it out. You've got to basically cut out a slot over here. The clip has got to fit into it. You're reverse it, drilling it. It just gets into, there's a lot of
more
work
to it than
happens
people
here.
think. Yeah.
2 of the ones I made were they're the concept of a thin piece of stainless. It's mounted, and then it's basically looks like it's been drilled out at the has been drilled out at the end. But then underneath it, we'll put like a jewel of like a it's not real jewel, but it'd be like a colored glass, like a ruby color, and that fits up tight into the hole itself. So now you've got this clip with this nice piece of whatever color stone that you want. And it being a ball, that aids in getting it in and out of your pocket without a typical, most clips will have like a little cant to it. So you can stick it into your pocket. Well, the whole ball system there looks great. It's terrific. It's nice. It's a finished thing. Again, it turns into, takes time.
Yeah.
And it's got to work.
Yeah.
You can't make it. I mean, I've had knives where people have brought them to me and they're like, I can't get the damn thing out of my pocket.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you wind up, I'm sitting there like bending the thing or having to put a cant so it lifts the edge up a little bit to it, that gets into that. When you get done with the knife, I'll sit there and I'll go, oh, look, okay. Then I'll be like, oh, is it like this? Put it in there. How much? Not on this one, but I'll lock some of them up and then I'll hang like a 10-pound weight from it.
Yeah.
20-pound weight and see where it goes. How much the actual lock can hold up to.
Yeah.
And it gets sometimes you overrate on what you're doing. And for lack of a better term, a buddy of mine, we always used to say, we're rushing it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, you don't need 3 inches of steel for something that only requires an 1/8 inch. But you start building it, it's like, oh, it's got to be strong. It's got to be, I want it to hold up.
Yeah.
But then when you try to get into a finer, you have to refine all that down. Yeah. But take the max and the min, and you get that perfect in between. Now you got something that's really good.
And then the other aspect of that is, you can't go buy, well, maybe that, but you're not going to walk up and buy these at Dick's Sporting Goods with Kershaw on them. Nothing wrong with Kershaw knives, but none of these are. You're not buying a $75 pocket knife. You're buying a piece of machinery that is specifically designed and built to really exacting standards, and that again, if it's something that you are betting your life on, that becomes an important thing. So
right, and that's very much a design material. Like I wouldn't make like from a leaf spring something I'm going to sell somebody.
Yeah,
because I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah.
Okay, if I make something from a leaf spring, and I'm like, and you're like, hey, can I buy that from you? I'd be like, yeah, it's made from a leaf spring. So you understand it,
Yeah.
It's not. So when you make stuff for people, I use a known quantity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
1095, 440, ATS 34 for stainless, CM 154. A lot of these higher end, they get steel's gotten really expensive.
Yeah.
Carbon steel's still pretty good.
Yeah.
Stainless though, you're gonna pay.
Yeah.
Titanium, I haven't done one in quite a while actually, but I had made a couple of knives folders, but frame locks.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the one, he was actually a police officer up in Loudoun County, and he was like, he goes, "Hi, I saw your Instagram and blah 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 and all this other stuff." And he said, "Could you make?" And he gave me his idea. And when I said that about I don't like doing that,
Yeah.
I didn't mean it in the respect of like no, I don't do that. What I'm saying is when I get an idea, it's just like it's fruitful. I don't have to ask anybody. I just do what I want, and then when I get done, most people look at what I like, and they're like, "I like that."
Yeah.
But if you said to me, "Hey, I want to make like this guy," he's like, "I wanted a folder." He goes, "I want a frame lock." He goes, "And I want a 4-inch blade." I'm like, you're making a big ass knife there for a folder." He's like, "Yeah, but this is what I want." And it was basically a very plain blade. It was just a drop point. There was nothing fancy about it. Titanium all around, stainless steel fittings, everything. So it was it was stainless steel blade. All the other fittings were stainless steel. It wasn't an automatic. It was just a folder frame lock, titanium, and he just wanted it like a bluish color. So I'm like, okay, no problem. Put the thing together. Came out. It was very thin. Okay. Put that all together. Beautiful knife. Worked out fine. He loved it. The cost on just getting titanium, the stainless, and this is a good while ago.
Yeah.
It was like titanium is outrageous.
Yeah.
And again, you want to buy these things from a known source.
Yeah.
You know, because you can go on eBay, and I've seen it where they're like, "Oh, titanium cutouts." I have no idea what Chinesium they're using or some other some type of shit that's coming out of there.
Some broke ass Ukrainian.
But yeah, some shit they weld off of some old T-34 tank or so. I don't know. But again, if you're going to charge somebody the money, you have to produce the product.
Cool.
And you want a known source. So, but again, he said this is what he wanted. I drew up what I wanted, and I showed it to him, and we were pretty much on the same page.
Yeah.
But I didn't draw up a clip point.
Yeah.
I drew up a drop point. He wanted more of the same concept here, but more squared off. This is more, fits in the hand type of thing. The actual coloring on it, which isn't hard for titanium.
Yeah.
It's easy to change. I just put it into a really deep, almost a purple. It was a beautiful knife. I had asked him if he wanted the thin blue line because I said, what I can do is I can mill out a slot on an angle.
Yeah.
Take another piece of titanium and make it blue and make the rest of it black. And he said, no.
Yeah.
So I said, to hell with you.
Do like Sean Johnson, just knock everything on his desk.
No.
Fuck you.
But no, it's but it worked out where he liked it, came out fine.
Cool.
Nice. To this day, every now and again I hear from him,
Nice.
And he was like, he goes, yeah, the blade had come loose. Everything I put together is always blue Loctite.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, no problem. I said, just mail the thing back. He mailed it back. I took a look at it. I'm like, it literally needed to be just like, I put more Loctite and turned it. And I sent it back up to him. I'm like, no problem.
There you go. There you go. So there you go.
I mean, so those are the types of things. Again, they're tools and they're a piece of machinery that you can take apart and put together.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for coming out and sharing all this with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I'll get this information and we'll put it up, but make sure that we have it. What's a good method to get a hold of you? So like, what's your Instagram? Are you on Instagram?
Yep, I'm on Instagram. It's Trinity Knives. Pretty much that's it. When you go to the website, my website had gotten hacked. So I probably had 10 years worth of photos on there.
Oh.
And I had to get rid of everything.
Damn.
So I'm big into photography. So it's Trinity Knives. So there's a lot of pictures of of the area around here. They're very nice. But there's also, it's psychotic, I know. You're going to have pictures of me hammering stuff and a nice sunset. So it's
nice. There you go. Yeah. So it's Trinity Knives on Instagram.
Right, on Instagram.
What's your webpage?
I don't have a website.
Okay.
I do have an email. It's JOCIN1989 at iCloud.com.
Okay.
And a good phone number is 757-377-1948. If I don't answer, just leave a message because I screen everything that comes through. There's so many damn.
Yeah, well,
you
got
all
all
the other
this
crap that
got all
comes
those
through.
stalkers from your OnlyFans page. So.
Yes, well, hey, I told you I was into leather pants now.
That's it. All right. Well, thanks again for coming out, Joe. This was
Yes.
awesome. Thanks for bringing all this cool stuff. If you have any questions, give Joe a call. And local small business, we support him. He makes some of the coolest shit. He's getting ready to make some stuff for me. And we hope you had fun with this. I don't think anybody's feelings got hurt unless you're diehard Kershaw knife fans. But again, I'm not dogging on Kershaw. They're just
No.
they're not Joe O'Neill knives.
Yeah.
So, all right, buddy.
Well,
Be safe, and we'll catch up with you guys on the next episode.
thanks.
Take care. And there we go. Those are cool as shit, dude.